Winners dictate outcomes. Losers, are the ones who have to adhere to the dictation. Iran did not lose this war. The United States lost this war. I think that Zelensky's not on the target list. It would be the dumbest thing in the world for Russia to put him on the target list. Zelensky's one of the best assets they have.
Oh, no, they're going to try to hide it, launder the money. Right now you have to go through an open process with State Department selling weapons to Israel. This way you get to bury it in the Department of War.
There's an old Russian saying, slow to harness, fast to ride. Well, guess what, NATO? You just allowed the Russians to get harnessed. Now get ready for the ride.
Friday, end of the week. 3 guys who used to work in the intelligence community, CIA, Marine Corps, United Nations, sat down and said out loud what nobody on TV will say. One of them spotted something buried in a 1,000-page defense bill that should make every American furious. Another one explained why Russia doesn't care about NATO anymore. And the third one just told you exactly why there will never be an Iran deal. Let's go.
Winners dictate outcomes. Losers, are the ones who have to adhere to the dictation. Iran did not lose this war. The United States lost this war. We don't get to dictate any outcomes because we have no leverage at all, economic or military or political, that can compel Iran to do our bidding.
And while that's happening, someone just quietly snuck something into the defense bill. Larry Johnson caught it.
Oh, no, they're going to try to hide it, launder the money. Right now you have to go through an open process with State Department selling weapons to Israel. This way you get to bury it in the Department of War. But, I think this comes too little too late because several of the weapons that Israel would like to get, we no longer can make because we don't have the supplies.
3 former intelligence officers, 3 different topics, same conclusion. The people running this country are not being straight with you. Let's look at the board. Welcome back to ARM Geopolitics. I'm Aaron Johnson. On this channel, we don't just cover the news. We cut through the noise, dominate the narrative, and give you the analysis mainstream media is too scared to run. Vigilance is our shield, truth is our weapon. Let's get into it. Let's start here. This dropped the same day as this conversation. Almost nobody covered it.
I'm just looking at this piece that Phil Giraldi sent to all of us about the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act for 2027, with 2 sections in there calling for the integration of the IDF with the United States military at a level that the U.S. military has never integrated with a foreign country before.
What is the NDAA anyway? It's just the annual defense bill. It's over 1,000 pages long, Congress passes it every single year, and absolutely nobody reads it. And honestly, that's exactly what they're counting on. Buried deep inside the new version is a tiny line called Section 224, or the United States-Israel Defense Technology Cooperation Initiative. Let's talk about what that actually means for you and me in plain English. It completely merges the US military with Israel's forces, tying us closer together than we are with our oldest NATO allies. This isn't just about selling them weapons anymore. This is a full-blown fusion. We're talking about shared AI systems and shared network data. What our military knows, theirs knows instantly. It even sets up foreign weapons factories right here, at home, specifically in states like Mississippi and Arkansas. Why? Because once those factories are built, the local politicians get to brag about new defense jobs in their districts, locking in their political support forever. There's no open TV debate about this, and you don't get a vote. It's just quietly slipped into a budget bill they hope you're too busy to look at. And here's the heartbreaking part. While this is happening behind closed doors, 6 out of 10 Americans are openly saying this war with Iran was a massive mistake. Only 16% of us believe we should keep sending unconditional weapons overseas. Think about that disconnect. That is how you feel. But Congress is quietly passing the deepest military merger in our history anyway, all tucked inside a massive stack of papers they assume you'll never read.
Oh no, they're going to try to hide it, launder the money. Right now you have to go through an open process with State Department selling weapons to Israel. This way you get to bury it in the Department of War. But, I think this comes too little too late because several of the weapons that Israel would like to get, we no longer can make because we don't have the supplies. So, the United States is making promises to deliver things that it can't right now produce simply because of the lack of resources. So, this Israel remains sort of the central player in this drama. Now, we saw earlier today Trump announcing that he was lifting the blockade, but then he proceeded to basically take the 180-degree opposite position on every one of Iran's demands, such as release of frozen assets, sanction relief, the end of the war in Lebanon and Gaza and the West Bank. And so as long as Israel continues to carry out those attacks, Iran's not going to agree to any kind of permanent agreement. The ceasefire is tentative. It remains barely in place. But I think that as these attacks on Lebanon, as they intensify, Iran's going to finally pull back and start striking Israel because Israel is violating the ceasefire.
Johnson is pointing at something important. The US is making military promises it can't keep because the supply chain is broken. And now Congress is signing up for an even deeper military commitment to Israel. Think about that for a second. We can't fill the orders we already have, and we're adding more. Now, why Ritter thinks a deal with Iran actually does happen. Not because of diplomacy, not because of great negotiating, because of one thing.
There's literally no scenario in the world where that will happen. Likewise, the idea that Iran isn't going to retain control over the Strait of Hormuz. That's their nuclear weapon. And Trump wants them to give it up. They're not going to. They've already worked out an agreement with Oman, and the world has pretty much agreed to do it. Everybody in the world except the United States and Israel. Now, your question about what Israel, we know that the phone's ringing off the hook. We know that Donald Trump's getting a lot of pressure. But let me just boil it down as simplistic as possible. In 1992, Bill Clinton was campaigning against George Herbert Walker Bush, the man who just won Desert Storm, one of the greatest foreign policy presidents of our time. And he was trying to say that he has a better foreign policy than Bush. And he's out there talking about it. And James Carville came up and put a sticky note on the door of the war room and said, "It's the economy, stupid." Meaning, stop talking about this stuff. The only thing the American people care about come election time is how much money's in their wallet. And if the average American is like me right now, they open up their wallet and they get $1 little, and that's it. And you don't get to buy much gas with $1 little when the price of gas going through the roof. It's the economy, stupid. And that's what's driving President Trump's decision. And no amount of phone calls from Israel is going to change that.
$1. That's the whole argument. Not foreign policy theory, not strategy. $1 in the wallet. Iran knew this day was coming. They didn't need a military victory. They just needed patience. They closed the strait, they waited, and they let the price of gas do the rest. That's the whole Iran strategy in one sentence. Wait until Americans feel it at the pump. And it worked. Now, Ukraine. And this is the one nobody on mainstream TV will say. It sounds shocking at first, but once Ritter explains it, it makes complete sense.
Well, first of all, I think that Zelensky's not on the target list. It would be the dumbest thing in the world for Russia to put him on the target list. Zelensky's one of the best assets they have. Zelensky is corrupt as the day is long, and right now inside Ukraine is a huge corruption scandal centered on Zelensky and his inner circle that further undermines his authority and his legitimacy. Russia has made the decision, and this is a finalized decision after the murder of these 21 teenagers who were attending a teacher's college, the future of Russia, the people who are going to teach the next generation, the hope of Russia. There's a reason why Russia, this is the straw that broke the camel's back. It's unforgivable.
Let me explain exactly what Ritter is saying here. Russia doesn't want to kill Zelensky. Why? Because a dead Zelensky becomes a hero, a martyr. People who hate him right now would rally around his memory. The guy who comes after him gets a clean start. Russia doesn't want that. Russia wants Zelensky exactly where he is. Corrupt, unpopular, losing support every single week, That's more useful to them than a dead Zelensky. The teachers' college attack, 21 teenagers, future teachers. That's what changed everything. Not a military target, kids. And after that, Russia made a decision they're not going to back on.
Negotiations, they're dead. There will be no compromise. The war ends when Ukraine accepts the unconditional surrender. That means they accept unconditionally the terms dictated by Russia. Europe is no longer a factor. Russia's not listening to Europe, and the United States is opted out, will never be asked to come back in. And so this means that Russia is going to replace Zelensky. If you kill Zelensky, the most hated man in Ukraine today, they despise this guy. They really do. He's not loved at all, not respected. He's widely reviled. You kill him, you instantly turn him into a martyr. And people will rally around him, and then the replacements will have legitimacy because they'll be seen stepping in to replace a martyr to stand up to Russia. And now you've created a more legitimate government that's going to be harder to replace. You need Zelensky to stay in power. So the first thing is Zelensky can stand right in the middle of Kiev and the Russians won't target him. They just aren't going to target him. Shaking the tree. I mean, it's an old intelligence term where you go in and you do something and then you stand back and watch. Because the Russians have a good idea what certain things are, but they have no idea what other things are. So you want to bang things up and make things move, make things activate, make communications come on, come off, etc. Russians will be collecting that, and then you're going to see they have assets standing by. And as a rabbit runs and goes into a different hole, boom, that hole is going to be hit. As somebody runs up and goes up a tree, bam, that tree is going to be hit.
Make noise, watch what moves, hit what moves. That's the strategy. This isn't random bombing. It's a trap.
Well, my guess is that CIA people or the agents that case officers run in Kiev, no places to hide, no rabbit holes that even the Russians don't know about. I think that the CIA presence there is not the important thing. The important thing is how Trump reacted to the Russian retaliation for the attacks there in Luhansk at that teacher's college. It was sort of a yawn. Trump didn't even do anything on his social account there. He left it to Karen Levitt to say, well, this is a tit for tat sort of thing, and you can expect this kind of thing.
A yawn. That's the White House response. After Russia launched a massive campaign across Ukraine, Karen Levitt says, tit for tat. That's it. America has checked out of Ukraine. Russia knows it. And now, something that actually happened as this conversation was being recorded. A Russian drone just hit an apartment building in Romania, a NATO country, for the first time in this war.
Just saw today, there was a lot of hype, about 6 hours ago about, oh my God, Russia has attacked Romania in Constanta with a drone. And the Europeans were getting all spun up. Just as we started this program, the president of Romania came out and goes, this was a Russian drone that was hit with air defense fire in Ukraine, and it got offline and it hit us. So this was not an intentional. So he's downplaying it because they don't want to get into a fight with Russia. They recognize that doesn't work out real well.
We need to pause for a quick reality check because the facts were still up in the air while this discussion was happening. Larry mentioned Constanta and no injuries. But the true story is a lot closer to home. This drone didn't hit an empty field. It smashed into an apartment building in Galati. 2 people were hurt in the blast. Romania found the serial numbers proving it was Russian-made drone. And they didn't hesitate. They expelled the Russian consul and shut down the whole consulate down. Putin immediately denied the whole thing, while NATO called it a complete act of recklessness. So, while Larry missed the exact city name, which happens to anyone covering the breaking news, and even though the Romanian government tried to keep people from panicking, we can't ignore the human cost. Families were affected, a diplomat was sent packing, and a consulate is gone. That is a massive diplomatic incident, plain and simple. And that brings us to the real heart of the issue. It's not just about the hardware that fell out of the sky. It's about what Larry Johnson reveals next about what Russia is actually planning behind closed doors.
No longer. look, some have asked, why did Russia wait till now to make this threat,
Right.
to do this warning? Well, I think one logical explanation is that Russia always calculated that if they did this, they would run the risk of an escalated war with the Europeans, with NATO, with the United States. So they wanted to make sure that when that possibility came, that they would have enough mobilized troops, they would have enough inventory of a variety of missiles and weapon systems that they could fight NATO if necessary. And I think that they have finally reached that point where they're ready to take on NATO if necessary. Now, we
operating off of a calendar. They are this isn't a timeline-driven event. This is a results-driven event. The war ends when Ukraine surrenders unconditionally. And Russia is going to continue to put pressure. The difference is right now that Russia is no longer constrained by concerns about NATO intervention. They don't care. In fact, there are many right now who are now increasingly influential in the inner circle of Putin that welcome NATO intervention because it gives Russia a chance to, excuse my language, bitch slap them down. Russia's ready. I mean, political decisions have been made. Red lines have been crossed. The straw broke the camel's back, and there ain't going back on this. There's an old Russian saying, slow to harness, fast to ride. Well, guess what, NATO? You just allowed the Russians to get harnessed. Now get ready for the ride.
Now, I look at Putin mostly. He's unique in Russian history. He's so cautious and perspicacious. We're lucky he is. Will he take the chance that a very mercurial President Trump will invoke Article 5 of the NATO treaty? What would be the cost-benefit analysis for that? My position is that Putin has built up a country for the last 25 years. He'll take every measure to prevent it from being subjected to an attack by NATO. Now, Latvia was mentioned here. The Foreign Intelligence Service, the CIA from Russia, made a statement 10 days ago saying, look, Latvia, you've been deceived in thinking you can take Ukrainian drones, and they can be fired from Latvia, and missiles fired from Latvia, and we won't know where they're fired from. Give me a break. You've been subjected to wishful thinking here. We know exactly where they come from. And remember, Latvia, that there's no way that membership in NATO will protect you from retaliation. That is a strict, very, very specific warning.
Russia just told Latvia directly, being in NATO won't save you. That's not a vague threat. That's a specific public warning from their intelligence service 10 days ago. If you've been feeling like the world is spinning out of control and the people in charge aren't listening to you, you aren't crazy. This weekend, 3 former intelligence veterans came out and confirmed exactly what we've all been sensing. The system is broken, and the disconnect between Washington and regular American families has never been wider. They pointed out that while a clear majority of Americans want nothing to do with the war in Iran, politicians are quietly passing laws to bind our military and our local economies to a foreign nation permanently. They don't do this through open debates on TV. They sneak it into massive budget bills on a Friday afternoon, hoping you're too busy to survive to notice. And when they do try and fix the mess they've made, it's not because they care about peace. It's because they see how angry you are every time you swipe your card at the gas pump. Your financial pain is the only thing forcing their hand. Meanwhile, across the globe, the old alliances are shattering, threats are escalating, and their promises are running empty. It all leads to one undeniable truth. The people we trust to lead are writing checks they can't cash, using your money and your future as the collateral. We have to start paying attention to what they're hiding in the fine print. Just think about this. The law I just told you about, Section 224, is already sitting in the defense bill. It passed the committee. It's moving forward right now. And the mainstream networks are completely silent about it. If you had to find out about this here, from a video on your feed instead of the nightly news, then that is the exact problem we're trying to fix together. We can't rely on the algorithm to warn people about what's happening to our country. It's designed to bury stuff like this. But you have the power to change that. If you think your friends and family have a right to know what's being hidden in the fine print, please hit that share button. You are the only reason this truth gets out. So, drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'm heading down there right now to see what you guys think about this. This is ARM Geopolitics. I'm Aaron Johnson. Stay sharp, stay informed, and never stop questioning. I'll see you in the next one.